Now here we are, beginning of December 2008, with the diagnosis of multiple myeloma. How do you react and how do you feel when you're told you have cancer? Well, I don't know, some people take it crying, some people take it falling on their back. I took it like someone just hit me on the head with a 2x4. And on my way down, when I hit the ground, he just kicked me in the face. Because I read a lot about multiple myeloma. A curious person like I am, I spend a lot of time in front of the computer. And when you're diagnosed with cancer, it's hard enough to Google something that looks like cancer on the internet. And then you find the foundations. The Multiple Myeloma International Foundation, the associations, Multiple Myeloma Canada, the Cancer Society of Canada, European Cancer Society, the from England Cancer Society. And if I could speak Spanish in Germany, I'm sure I would have looked at all the sites, but I couldn't. So, and then you're looking at the Mayo Clinic in USA, which is one of the top clinics in the world, working with trying to find a solution and a cure to multiple myeloma. And what you see is not usually what you want to see, but you must see. The prognosis of the life expectancy of multiple myeloma untreated is 6 to 12 months. With treatments, it's 2 to 3 years. But it's changing because the treatments are changing. The medication, the drugs that are available right now, even last year, 2 new drugs were approved by Health Canada in order to treat cancer, this cancer. It is not a standard cancer because it's not something you can treat by operating and then given a high dosage of chemotherapy and treating with what they call radiotherapy, I think it's called. So it is a cancer that is living in your bone marrow, so you have to find a way of attacking it there. And you can't do that by just sort of a surgery. So you must do that with medication. Medication that can go from just oral pills, that's an injection, or hard, tough chemotherapy plugged to a machine for 3 to 6 hours, depending on how bad it is. And transplants are solutions to treating this, what they call the auto transplant, which means they take your own blood, they take your own stem cells when you're cancer free, they freeze them, and then you treat your cancer as a maintenance cancer until the point where you are not able to fight it anymore, and then they destroy your system with chemotherapy for 2 to 3 weeks to give back what you have kept in the freezer to a rebuilding system. But that has certain limitations on success. It's usually followed not far along with a transplant from an external donor. So you can imagine at the beginning of December, in a short period of time that you're looking through the internet, you have questions, and you have questions about your own survival. Because the first thing it says, you have to look at the cure versus control. But the first paragraph starts with, there is no cure possible because it's an incurable cancer. So you will have this all the time. You will have to fight it all the time. But there is a treatment that can control this cancer. But we must just find the right cocktail in pills, in chemo, or whatever it is, to control it. When I was diagnosed with this cancer, my protein peak was at 35, which brings me to a diagnosis. There's 4 stages to this disease. The first stage is not even a stage, you're being symptomatic, which means that your cancer is dormant. It's there, but it's not progressing. And then after that, you go into 3 levels. The first level with you have a peak of less than 10, and you have no bone damage. I was diagnosed with the third level, which is the last level, but A rather than a B. A because I was over 10%, I was at 35, and I had some damage on my bones already, but they were slight. If they had been more serious, then I would have been at a last stage 3B. In a stage 2, you have to have none of stage 1, none of stage 3. So you're told you have cancer after a year and a half of looking, so anything, hoping that if they find something that it's not serious, and then when if it is serious, that they find it in time for them to treat you. And treat you and don't tell you well, sorry, but you're way too advanced, so there's nothing we can do. That was the fear that I lived for probably the last 6 months before the diagnosis. And I also put a stop to certain plans where until we find out what it is, why don't we just sort of play it safe and let's not put some of our dreams on the side. Well, that changed that. The cancer diagnosis changed that. I'm not in denial. I do have cancer. I'm probably in more of the phase of madness, not madness, I would say, of fear until we find the right cocktail to treat this cancer. In the stage of probably of being mad, because you have to ask yourself, why me, at 47 years old? I should have had lung cancer. For a man, I should have had prostate cancer. And a lot of men have also colon cancer and so on. A good friend of mine was just diagnosed in September with colon cancer. For multiple myeloma? Why? What have I done? Well, maybe I'm the son of a farmer, so where it's typical, a lot of the cases that they have are farmers' sons. Because we're probably exposed more to pesticides, besides and whatever when we were kids, chemicals, being in a fertilizer. We can just imagine 30 years ago, we didn't have the dust mask and we were spreading, chemicals. We just, I said like that. And black Afro-Americans, probably for obvious reason. They didn't probably have the best jobs in the shop. They were probably more exposed to cancer material, whatever. And this cell was mutated because of our environment. We just don't know which environment, which chemical did that. And me, having worked also past, in the last 22 years in chemicals, where we're talking about, finishes, lacquer thinners, and paints and varsals and whatever solvents that I'm exposed to around the shop. At one point, probably your body, because people when they're 7 years old, their body probably starts saying, well, it's enough of these toxins and let's just crap on you here, and that's what you do. Where there was a lot of cases of the multiple myeloma with people even at the World Trade Center on 9/11 because of the crashing of the tower, spread so much chemical into the air that the people even around were sick. People in Chernobyl, because they were exposed to a high dosage of radiation from the explosion of the nuclear facility. And then even places where in India, where the Dow chemical plants were exploded, and then fume was all over the village. People suffered from multiple myeloma. So it is not a disease that just happened by itself. Something triggers it. They just don't know why, they just don't know what, and they just don't know how. And that's why it is difficult to treat. Each of these multiple myeloma is unique to each individual. My multiple myeloma is not the same as if I had a twin brother, identical twin brother, who suffered from multiple myeloma. We probably wouldn't even treat it the same. It just goes to show you. So in the next videos, I will try to give you also an idea of my treatments. So stay tuned, and there's more videos to come.
I pray you'll be alright, and watch us where we